It's not every day a PlayStation exclusive comes along and becomes an almost overnight success before even being released yet, especially as an original IP. Stellar Blade is making tsunamis in the gaming world right now, caught between an army of giga-simps ready to die for their beloved anime video game waifu, and the shrill cries of haters complaining that the main protagonist can both slay monsters and look like a complete snack while doing it.
All you know is that the main character is this anime chick. And yes, we actually spent arduous hours modeling her ass cheeks.
And for that, we thank you.
Despite the fact it's not out for another 2 months, it's already a top-selling game globally. In the US, it's bouncing back and forth between the first and second best seller for PlayStation on Amazon, while holding a solid third place in Japan. The game promises fast-paced hack-and-slash combat, a vast semi-open world to explore, and more cake than a French bakery. Je voudrais, mon chéri, s'il vous plaît. Welcome back to the Star Bazaar, the channel so dedicated to getting back in the algorithm that I am relying on booty and jiggle physics to get me there. And the crazy thing is, I think it's gonna work. This game is shaping up to be one of the better releases of 2024, and the hype is building for it every day. It's not exactly hard to see why. Shift Up have been a lot more active and vocal about Stellar Blade as we get closer to the release on April 26th, and with every word these developers say, they get more and more positive reactions from gamers everywhere. Take, for example, the game director's response to the controversy surrounding Stellar Blade. What is the controversy, you might be asking? My fellow men and women of culture, it is the booty. Long story short, not everybody is happy with the design choices for the main character, Eve. There are those who think the only reason the game is appealing is because the design choices are, quote, hypersexualized, or from a bygone era of gaming.
The one thing, I know you were talking about the character from a bygone era. I do think the character model was actually very distracting in not a good way, because with the camera angles chosen, it just felt like this game seems like a game that came out in 2002 in terms of its character design. It's a bit old and not flattering, I don't think, for a modern audience.
There's also some weird criticisms about the ages of the characters and how they look questionable, despite the fact the characters are adults played by adult actors.
True, like I said, graphically, the combat-wise looks great, but I can't get past their faces looking like little girls. Either way, we'll see how they turn out whenever they're released. I feel like people like this really do a disservice to the actual bad actors that are trying to use lolly content and stuff like that. I think this is pretty close. What are we talking about here?
Honestly, not worth getting into that, except to say that cultural differences are a very real thing. Just because Americans don't have a skincare routine doesn't mean nobody does. But instead of backtracking or saying that they're gonna remove any lewdness from the game, the director Hyung-tae Kim doubled down on his design choices, and in the most polite way possible told the critics to get bent. Honestly, when I play a game, I would like to see someone who is better looking than myself. That's what I want. I don't want to see something normal, I want to see something more ideal. I think that's very important in a form of entertainment. This is, after all, entertainment targeted for adults. In an era where Western video game developers seem to go out of their way to make the women in their games as physically unattractive as possible, to appeal to a modern audience. What Shift Up is unapologetically doing with Stellar Blade and the main character Eve is a breath of fresh air, and it's a big part of why people are talking about this game so much. Shift Up is a Korean development studio, and therefore has a different set of cultural standards than developers here in the United States, for example. There isn't that same desire to virtue signal, or to try and insert a politically charged agenda into a video game or franchise like what a lot of Western studios have been doing. These devs just want to make a badass game with a badass female protagonist, and by all accounts it looks like they've succeeded. And it's not like this game is unique in its unapologetic design choices either, which makes the controversy around it that much more confusing. Games like the Bayonetta series and Nier Automata prominently feature bootylicious babes as the playable character, and nobody had an issue with them. That's why, to me, a lot of the backlash for Stellar Blade feels disingenuous. It's more of a jab at the people who are interested in this game, instead of a jab at the game itself. If you're into this game, you're probably some incel weeb living in your mom's basement, right? Call me out harder, daddy. That's how the critics see you anyway, and I think they're using the fact people are into this as a weapon against them. The funny thing is, it's not working. The people who are critical of this game have seen nothing but L's and ratios as the internet collectively joins together, hand in hand, to dunk on these weirdos, and I'm here for it.
Stellar Blade is not stellar in my opinion. I look at Stellar Blade and I'm like, it doesn't look that good. And then everyone's like drooling over it. I'm like, I know what you're drooling about, the fucking protagonist, because you want to see some anime babe cutting things up. And I think that's stupid, you know? What if they just put a guy with swords in there instead?
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
When it comes to design, we put special attention on the backside of the character, because the player is always facing the back of the character when they're playing. These devs know what gamers want, and that's why this game is getting so much praise and attention. They've now even confirmed some key details about the game's content, and a lot of this is really solid news. We now know the game's story will take players roughly 25 hours to complete a full playthrough, while completionists can expect between 30 and 50 hours of playtime for a 100% run, which is a really solid amount of time. Not so long where you feel like it's never gonna end, but not so short where it feels like a Call of Duty campaign. This is very comparable to a game like Jedi Survivor, which also had a roughly 25-hour story playthrough and about 40 hours for a 100% run. The devs talked about the power of player agency and choice. You can either sit back and immerse yourself and take all the time you want, or you can really lock in and grind out all the missions. Of course, doing as much as possible in the game gets you all the cool cosmetics. The developers confirmed there's going to be plenty of cosmetic options and upgrades for Eve. Players will be able to unlock outfits, hairstyles, jewelry, and there's going to be a total of 30 different outfits that you can unlock for Eve, and every one of them can be earned through gameplay, either finding it in the field, by completing a quest, or by purchasing it through the in-game store. And by in-game store, they don't mean something where you have to spend real-life money. Think of it like a vendor or a clothes shop in other games. Just kill enough enemies, earn the cash, buy the new gear. Simple. The game director really emphasized that we're not going to have to make any additional purchases to earn any of the in-game content, which is awesome. And as a little cherry on top, we even get a preload date that is a full week before the game's release. Most of the time when we get a preload date, it's about 3 or sometimes 4 days before the game's launch, but those who pre-order Stellar Blade can download it early at midnight on April 19th, ready to play first thing on the 26th. That is going to be the most stressful week of my life. As far as the file size goes, we don't know exactly how big the game will be, but considering it's being run on the Unreal Engine 4, and other comparable games like Lies of P are roughly 60 gigabytes, we can estimate that it'll be around 50 to 70, but I'll be sure to report once we have a more exact number. My hat is off to these developers. They're really going above and beyond to deliver gamers an experience that we're gonna love, and I don't even know if they're aware of just how much the gaming community is behind them right now. It would actually be hilarious if they had no idea. But either way, I can't wait for Stellar Blade, and if you can't either, let me know by giving this video a thumbs up. If you're one of those poor, unfortunate souls who are locked behind PC or Xbox, consider subscribing to this channel to stay in the loop with all things Stellar Blade. I'm planning on streams, tip videos, guides, and of course news updates whenever we hear anything new, so I hope you'll join us for the ride. Big shout out and thank you to the channel members Vilshalmer, Isaac S., Scoots McGee, and Dooft Curse Hanover. Thank you for your continued support. If you're interested in channel memberships and getting some exclusive perks, you can hit the join button down below the video. If you enjoyed today's commentary, let me know by giving the video a thumbs up. If not, give it a thumbs down. And if you're new to the channel, consider subscribing and getting notified. That's gonna do it from me. This has been Star. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you next time. Peace.